So last week I got to sit down and play this incredibly aggressive, fast-paced third-person looter shooter, and it hit the spot, let me tell you. It hit the bloody spot. I got to set enemies on fire, make them explode, amplify my weapon to make it fire bullets that were set on fire, so basically I fired fire, I turned enemies to ash, all while topping my health off with everything that I set on fire. This is my first impression of Outriders and the Pyromancer class in particular. Quick disclaimer, this is my footage from a work in progress session, so a lot can change before this game is released in February next year. While also the segment of gameplay that we got to record in wasn't end game, it was about 15 hours into the main story through an area called, I think it was Dead Rock Pass, and it was only on World Tier 5 or maybe 6. Outriders will be able to go up as far as World Tier 15, I believe. It's a looter shooter, so it follows the mold of those types of games. From the minute I heard about Outriders, the Pyromancer class was the only one I wanted to try out, and I'll be honest, it didn't disappoint. Outriders will, however, have 4 different classes: the Pyromancer, which you're seeing in this video, the Technomancer, the Devastator, and of course the Trickster. Pyromancer is kind of a fire-based battle mage, where the Devastator is the big rock hulking tank guy, the Technomancer is a turret-based class, and the Trickster is a melee kind of time-stopping class. But each one of these classes will have 3 different subclasses which can be built to fit your own playstyle by spending talent points as you earn them by leveling up, and the level cap is level 30. Now the Pyromancer can be built as an Ashbreaker, which looks to be heavily based on crowd control with the Ash ability to turn enemies into statues and crowd control them, or the Pyro can be built as a Firestorm, which was what I did for all of this footage, which allowed me to have a ton of health and heal over time abilities or life leech, while also having a lot of damage output as well. Then the final tree of the Pyro is a Tempest, which seems to be all about having a lot of damage from your actual abilities, but each one of these subclasses will have talent points that will amplify certain abilities. But there are also weapons that will further boost or alter certain abilities and how they perform. On top of that, each class has 3 separate abilities that they can chop and change out of a list of 8 abilities in total, so you have 8 abilities to choose from, but you can only equip 3 of them. Respecking, I believe, will be free in the main game, so you can mess about with any build variation that you want to. There is also mods for weapons in game that you can further amplify or alter things for how you perform. So the game has what looks like a really good amount of build diversity, and that's not counting any of the epic or legendary gear that you might get later on from end game, because like I said, none of this footage is actual end game. It's pretty much through the single player campaign. Now if you're interested in footage of any of the other classes, then I have a link to a video description from Flynn, which is his perspective while he's playing as the Devastator in action, and that is below the video, so make sure and click that when you finish watching this one if you want to check it out. Now in Outriders, the flow of combat was probably what kept my interest more than anything. It felt really nice. Yes, it's a third person shooter, so chances are you're thinking about the Division games like that, but it's not like that at all. Enemies are really aggressive, constantly pushing you or dropping bombs on you or grenades on you to force you out of that cover. So it felt like a third person cover shooter that didn't want you to actually use the cover, which was quite hectic, but hectic in a really good way. Your abilities aren't on cooldown for very long, so it was a constant back and forth between casting your abilities and then dealing damage with your weapons. Like setting enemies on fire was keeping me healed up because it was marking enemies. Once they're on fire, I would get healing. Then killing them would give me big chunks of healing. So it was quite nice, the back and forth between using abilities and weapons and constantly getting out of the way of enemy fire. So it flowed really well. Now weapons also stand out, so do armor pieces. They're not just copy-paste versions of each other with different colours. Epic gear will stand out. It will look different to your default gear, be more appealing, and will hopefully be something that you will want to actually go after and grind and actually farm to get your hands on. And let's be honest, there's nothing worse than having a game where weapons aren't that visually appealing or aren't epic or legendary and just look bloody normal. Do you know what I mean? Like a weapon that has tons of skulls all over it is something that I will go for quicker than one that is just a blocky shotgun. Now the gameplay felt good, the combat flowed very well, the weapons and armour are very appealing. There was hand cannons, shotguns, light machine guns, snipers, semi-auto rifles, submachine guns, assault rifles, a lot to choose from. All of these weapons seem to also have random bonus stats on them, like more life leech or higher crit chance, and each weapon could also be upgraded to a higher quality with the vendor to increase their damage and their stats. These upgrades, of course, were costing some kind of shard, which I have no doubt we will have to farm and collect on our way through missions as well. Now, in terms of endgame, we will know more about what Outriders endgame is on Thursday this week, when they, I think, go into more depth in it on a live stream. So I'll hopefully have a video up on that as well to share the info on what to look forward to. But the big thing I've seen from people when I've ever showed this off on stream or spoken about it was the actual graphics of the game. They're not exactly big and flashy graphics. Outriders graphics remind me heavily of Remnant from the Ashes, which I'll be honest, I really like. It's a good game. It's dark, it's gritty, it's post-apocalyptic, so it has that feeling of end of the world. It's not full of overly saturated colours or shiny metals. It's all very doom and gloom. The combat system is also heavily based around status effects, like setting enemies on fire, like freeze effects, like bleed effects, and so on. So there's going to be a lot of different, I guess, changes or chopping around with weapons that you can use to get more out of your setup. So there's going to be a lot of min-maxing basically. Now, there was zones in the game while I was playing it which did look like they had low quality graphics on the terrain or on the walls and areas like that, but maybe that was because I was playing the game through a streaming service and not actually having it downloaded and having it on my own rig to check out what the performance would actually be like. But Outriders is definitely one of those games that you're going to want to keep an eye on if you're into looter shooters like Warframe, like Destiny, like The Division and so on. It ticks all of the boxes, and I will definitely be covering a lot more of this game in the near future. Like I said, it's not out until February 2021, so plenty of time to catch up on everything that's going to be dropping with the game. Stay tuned for all of that. Let me know what you think of the game in the comment section below, and as always, thanks very much for watching.